Sometimes a single month can tell you the story of an entire era. And November 2025, it was absolutely one of those times. It's like you had this incredible convergence of scientific history, present-day breakthroughs, and the actual groundwork for our future, all happening in just 30 days.
Okay, so how are we going to break all this down? Well, we're going to follow 4 key threads from that month. First, we'll dive into a story about science, both its legacy and its future. Then, we'll look at a massive economic milestone. After that, we'll see how India is really making its mark on the world stage. And finally, we're going to uncover the one thing, the single thread that ties all of this progress together.
Well, the thing is, when you start connecting the dots between events that seem totally separate, a scientific discovery here, a financial record there, a global summit over there, a much, much bigger picture starts to emerge. It's a picture of not just where we are right now, but more importantly, where we're all headed. All right, let's jump into our first section, science. And this is a really cool story. We're going to see how a huge discovery from the 20th century is being honored at the exact same time a brand new life-saving application for the 21st century is being born. So we actually start by marking the passing of a true giant in science. On November 7th, James Watson, the man who co-discovered the double helix structure of DNA, passed away. And his discovery back in 1953 with Francis Crick, it didn't just win them a Nobel Prize, it literally unlocked the code of life itself.
And this right here really captures that incredible journey. Just think about it for a second. Back in 1953, the whole goal was just to understand the code of life. Fast forward to 2025, and we're not just reading that code anymore, we are actively reprogramming it. That is the ultimate shift, right? From pure discovery to a powerful, life-saving application.
And that brings us to this absolutely incredible achievement happening in the very same month. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched what's called NextCar-19. Now, this is a huge deal. It's India's first ever homegrown CAR T-cell therapy. It's a revolutionary treatment that basically engineers a patient's own immune cells to go and fight cancer. Just amazing.
So how does something like this even happen? Well, this slide shows you the blueprint. These kinds of breakthroughs, they don't just pop up out of a single lab. This one started as an idea at a university, a startup called ImmunoAct at IIT Bombay, and it grew from there, thanks to this powerful collaboration between a top hospital, government biotech departments, and even national leadership.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? It's that these huge moments, whether we're talking about science or, as we'll see, finance, they don't just appear out of thin air. Nope, they are built on a solid foundation of deliberate, strategic reform.
All right, let's talk about this number, $100 billion. On November 6, 2025, the State Bank of India, you probably know it as SBI, did something that no Indian bank had ever done before. Its market value crossed that incredible milestone, $100 billion. But here's the thing. This is so much more than just a record for one bank. It's a massive signal, right? It's a sign of growing confidence from all over the world in the stability and the strength of the entire Indian economy. It basically says, hey, the system here is robust. So the question is, how did this happen? Well, this chart points to a really big reason. Behind all that success was a really bold reform agenda. One of the most crucial moves was consolidating the public banking sector. They took 27 different banks and merged them down into just 12. And what did that do? It created much stronger, globally competitive institutions. Okay, so you've got growing economic muscle, you've got growing scientific muscle. What happens next? Well, India is also asserting its presence on the world stage. And what's really interesting is that it's doing it in remarkably diverse ways, often at the very same time. So picture this. In November 2025, world leaders are all gathering in Belém, Brazil for the COP30 Climate Summit. Now, this one was a big deal because it actually marked the 30th anniversary of these global negotiations. It was a moment to really step back and take stock of 3 whole decades of climate policy. And, well, the review was pretty sobering. After 30 years of talks, of promises, of policies, global greenhouse gas emissions hadn't gone down. In fact, they had actually increased by 34% since that very first conference back in 1995. The sense of urgency just couldn't be clearer. So that stark reality, it forced a major shift in strategy. The whole focus at COP30 moved beyond just mitigation, trying to prevent climate change, to something called climate adaptation.
And really, this is just a pragmatic acceptance that, okay, we now have to actively prepare our societies to live with the effects that have become inevitable.
Okay, now get this. At the exact same time these super high-stakes policy debates are happening in Brazil, India's presence was being felt on a completely different kind of global stage. Over in Thailand, Monica Vishwakarma, who's a student of political science and economics, was competing in the Miss Universe pageant. It's just a fascinating snapshot, isn't it? A nation engaging in critical global policy and global culture all at once.
So we've seen these incredible stories, right? In science, in the economy, in global affairs, all happening in just 1 month. But what's the common thread here? What's the engine that's actually powering all of this progress? Well, the answer, fittingly enough, was also celebrated in November. On the 11th, India observed its National Education Day. And it's a day that honors the country's very first Minister of Education, the person who laid the groundwork for a modern, scientific system of learning.
And check out the theme for 2025's National Education Day. It just perfectly captures the spirit of everything we've been talking about. Innovative education. Yup, that's what leads to breakthroughs like CAR-T cell therapy. And that innovation then drives inclusive growth, building a strong banking system that supports the entire economy. It all connects.
And this really just drives home the ultimate takeaway, doesn't it? Every single milestone we've looked at, from unlocking the secrets of DNA to building a $100 billion bank, all the way to shaping climate policy on the world stage, it is all ultimately fueled by one thing: a deep, sustained commitment to education.
Which, of course, leaves us with a final question to think about. If this is what progress in just a single month looks like, progress that was shaped by educational foundations laid decades ago, then where is the next big breakthrough coming from? And maybe more importantly, who are the students in our classrooms today that are going to be the ones to lead us there?